The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod. We're coming to you live from the Warner Center in Woodland Hills, California. This is the home for Autism Live. It is also the home for the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. I'm thrilled to be here with you on this Wednesday morning. There's been so much going on and so many things that I want to talk about. I want to start by saying to you that on Wednesdays, it's my favorite day of the week because whenever we can, we have Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh here and she answers your questions live in real time. I know I've had to disappoint you many times in the last couple of weeks, but I always say to you that when our kiddos need her, we have to defer to that, right? That's always the deal. So unfortunately, Dr. Granpeesheh is not here this morning, but that doesn't mean you're not going to get your Dr. Granpeesheh fix because we have an oldie but a goodie, that the questions are still relevant. So we're going to play that in just a few minutes, but please be aware that in the next hour for Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy, we're going to be back live, and Nancy Allspot Jackson will be joining me. She's the Executive Director of Autism Care and Treatment Today, and man, do we have some really good things. I'm so excited about this show today because we've got a gentleman, Mark Petz, who's going to be with us along with some of his colleagues. He is a high school teacher who decided to take a group of his students and work on a little project. And what he came up with is a pretty fascinating app that helps to teach in 3D in virtual reality social skills. So we're going to talk with them about how they made this happen and what it looks like. And then we've got the author of this book who's going to be joining us. This is Maxine, I'm going to destroy her last name, Rosa Lair, I believe. It's called Queen for a Day. And if you're done reading the Autism Mom memoir where somebody details what it was like for them going through all the different machinations that you go through with your child, but you want to read a deep, rich story about a group of people with the center point being an autism mom, although you get to see it from other perspectives. I'm telling you, this is a great book of fiction that has some really strong reality. Both Nancy and I read this and loved it. It's called Queen for a Day. You will laugh, you will cry, and you will throw the book across the room a couple of times because things happen that make it like all coughs up, right? And you go, oh, I'd forgotten that part that makes me mad. Yeah. A pretty amazing book here. So I'm so excited to talk with this author and ask some questions about the book. I have things dog-eared that were meaningful to me. So that's what's happening here. Plus we have a bunch of in the news and some other things that we want to talk about. I just want to say that it's used to be that we would try to hit a couple of events in April and we would go and we would try to do something live from them, or really in the beginning we would go and record and then we would bring back a ton of footage and then we'd take several days madly editing it to get it up so that you guys could see an event that we went to. Wasn't really conducive because the people who went to the event, it's now 4 days later, they're not really interested in watching the video. And if you were not able to attend the event, seeing what it was like was more of a tease, because it was short, right? So with the advent of Facebook Live, we have now been able to streamline our process to be able to do things live without it being the major production that it was in the beginning. When I think about the equipment that we took to some live events way at the beginning, right? But we've been doing more and more Facebook Live. I wasn't able to be there on Saturday, but I just want to say a big shout out to Samantha, our fabulous producer, and Kobe Bird, because they covered Stephanie's Day. And Stephanie's Day is honestly one of my favorite events of the year. It's on the CBS backlot, and it's really about all of our kids and making it possible for all of our kids to have a really spectacular day that's informative and connect with people. You know, it's one of those events where they get it right. Everything, basically, the basic premise of it is that it's all free. There's snow cones for kids. There's first responders that are there. You know, there were activities. There were all kinds of people to connect with. And it all started because a dad wanted to do something for his daughter, Stephanie. And Steve Malden happens to be the general manager of not one, but two local CBS channels here in Los Angeles, which is pretty, you know, an impressive thing to be general manager for two CBS in a huge affiliate market, Los Angeles, right? That's a pretty impressive job. And so he used to do this in Texas. Then when his family moved to Los Angeles, he said, we're going to do this in Los Angeles. It's a great day. And I'll tell you what, I love getting to see Stephanie because she is queen for a day, right? As she goes through, it's almost like an amusement park atmosphere, but it's the backlot of CBS. You get to see some of the houses that are in CBS shows. And Stephanie's remarkable. And I just loved that Kobe was there covering it for us. And man, did he do a good job. He just puts me to shame. He's 16 years old and on the spectrum, and he knows more about interviewing people than I'm ever going to know. Let's just say that, okay? So if you haven't seen the entire, they did a walkthrough and interviewed people. You can watch the entire thing, or they've got a shortened clip of the highlights coming to you very soon. So that was a really cool thing. And we just keep, it's not April anymore, but it seems like almost every weekend we have an event that we're covering. So that was most recently, but I don't want to take any more time because we really need to get to the Dr. Grandpichet. Don't forget, I'm going to be watching with you as you guys are watching Dr. Grandpichet. So if you have questions and comments, I'll be commenting as well. So take a look at Ask Dr. Doreen and stick around for Let's Talk Autism when this is over. But here's Dr. Doreen. Welcome to Ask Dr. Doreen. We're so thrilled and excited because Dr. Doreen Grandpichet is here with us in the studio. Since we last saw her, she had a birthday. Happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. A little bit today, in between things, we're going to, because I know one of your favorite things is to hear from the families, and so we have some things that we're gonna read in between questions, things that you've been a part of that they're grateful for.
That's awesome.
So, but in any case, for people who don't know you, you are a true expert in the field of autism. I believe the preeminent expert in the field of autism.
Thank you very much.
And you are a visionary in this field that you really, now see, I said I had the tee-hees, but then I'm going to get all emotional. You really are someone who has worked in this field for more than 30 years and helped families. You've seen individuals as individuals and given them the help and support that they needed. You have trained an army of people who help families and kids
really
to get to the progress. Yeah, it is amazing. You have a large legacy and you keep adding to it.
Thank you very much.
And thank goodness you're still young.
Very proud of my guardians. They're amazing people.
And you should be.
Thank you.
I find that sometimes people are brilliant, and that's a good thing, but often they can't share their brilliance. And sometimes people are good teachers. Mm-hmm. It is very rare to find somebody who is brilliant, who can teach and convey their message, and then on top of that, motivate a group of people to do something hard, and that is you.
Thank you very much. Yeah,
so,
no, I've definitely found my calling. This is
which is a love, and thank heavens for that.
It's awesome. No, I mean, honestly, Shannon, you know many of our senior people here at CARD, and they've been here also 20 years and so on. I just yesterday Day before yesterday was a big birthday for my dear Evelyn Kong, our clinical director.
I did
and
not know that.
Yes, it was a big birthday. And she has, of course, been here and a very important player at CARD for many, many years. In fact, I think Evelyn joined me in 1990, I want to say 3. So
And you were both 12.
So she's been here for a very long time, like 24 years now.
Wow.
Which is amazing. And not just Evelyn, but a lot of these folks, right? I mean, Kathy
Yes.
and Hank and Vince, and you've had Vince on the.
Yes.
There's so many of these guys who've been here for over 20 years, and they're just incredible people. And they spread this legacy, and I don't want to take credit for the amazing work they do, because for me, it's a matter of, like, I was very blessed and lucky to have those individuals here at an early stage, and they now make such a huge difference, and so many more after them, of course, and it just continues. And this past weekend, as you might know, we had another retreat. We have so many leaders now that we do 5 retreats a year. It's crazy. And I just am amazed. Every time I do a retreat, I'm just amazed at the quality of the people and the caring. And we're just so lucky.
Yeah.
This generation, to begin with, I think, has a lot of people who are givers.
Yeah.
People who want to really change the world. And we have so many of them here at CARD. So it's
true.
Really, that's mainly why we're successful. It's because we have amazing, amazing people here.
But it all trickles down from the top, right?
Well, thank you.
And that credit goes to you and exclusively to you.
I think I'm more lucky than anything else.
Well, and that's
you.
part of why what you do is amazing, because
Thank
that's
you.
the way that you look at it. But since you mentioned it, how many amazing people work here, I want to also say that CARD is almost always hiring. And
Always.
with locations in more than 100 places around the country, I would be willing to bet that there is one close to you. And if you go on the centerforautism.com website, the 800 number, now you can call and they can connect you to a recruiter to talk about the varied positions that are there. For those of you who have college-age students who are looking for work that is meaningful, instead of saying, would you like cinnamon crispas with that? Because that's usually the kind of job that our kids get when they're going to college. If they want something more meaningful than that, we need more people in this field that are good and care, because we will never have enough.
Absolutely.
And they can be someplace where they are cared for and their work is meaningful, and so definitely check that out. Okay, having said all of that, Dr. Granpeche is here and she answers your questions in real time. We do give the disclaimer that there is no one of any expertise who can give individual specific advice. This format doesn't allow for it. That's because right. That person doesn't get an opportunity to see the individual. So be as specific as you can with your questions, but understand that she is going to give you information that is not individual specific for you to take and then make decisions with about what to do next. Right. And that is very exciting. We have people writing in all the time talking about how amazing that is. I want to turn right now, because I also want to mention you can always email me too if your question is long. I want to turn to a question that we got via email from a mom who's been writing us with some frequency,
right.
From Dubai. And she says, I really love your show and appreciate the way you try to help us all. My question to Dr. Doreen is that my daughter was very compliant, always trying to please, kind, sweet child. Since she turned 11, she has become moody, aggressive, and almost a rebel. She doesn't want to follow rules, cooperate in school or at home, and has a mind of her own. She is mostly depressed or angry. I thought with the progress she was making earlier, with age, she would get better and better. I am getting extremely nervous when I see her behaviors getting worse. What am I doing wrong? What do I do in this situation? And what does the coming years, what are they going to be like? I just want to say a brief disclaimer at the beginning. We spent the weekend at the Aut Fest, which was the first ever autism festival for movies that feature autism in some way. And 2 of the recipients that were given awards at that event were Jonas Rivera and Pete Docter from Pixar for the work that they did in their movie Inside Out.
Wonderful.
Which is about a neurotypical little girl right. who's about 11 mm-hmm. and is going through a change of moving, but her parents are like, who is this child? She has been sweet and compliant and wonderful. And 11 comes, and there is a depiction of what it looks like inside your head.
Right.
And how up until 11, and this is something that Pete Docter spoke with us specifically about, and you can watch that video, it's on our Facebook channel, that, you know, kids make a certain amount of progress, and that joy in the movie is the one who drives the emotions in the head of the little girl. But suddenly at 11, other emotions have to come in and take more control over joy. And he made this movie because he had an 11-year-old daughter, and he said it was like the death of joy. And it took him a while to realize that joy doesn't go completely away, but that sadness and anxiety and anger have to take a turn driving the head for a while. So I just want to say, you know, might be a good movie to check out.
Definitely.
And to watch with your daughter.
Definitely.
Because it gives you a visual representation for both of you. And that's one of the reasons why they got an award, because it gives us all a jumping off point to talk with our kids about this. But I'm going to let you talk specifically about.
No, absolutely. And my first thought was also just take out of the equation autism. This is not just relevant to children with autism or on the spectrum in any way. And it's not just relevant to girls, it also pertains to boys. You know, I often think about my son, who was he still is. I mean, his humor is ridiculous, and he's one of my favorite people in the world to spend time with.
And he's wildly talented.
And he's just such a great guy to spend time with.
Yeah.
But the joy that he had in his life when he was a young child, and now he's much more reserved. But, you know, when you see, and it's great that you just said it's around 11, because I always wonder to myself, what age is it when they actually go from being these joyful, crazy kids to being more reserved? And it's around that time, it's pre-teen years. And, you know, so to answer your question, some of this is just hormones, yes, for girls. And I think this particular girl is now 12. And some of it is definitely, but because our moods do change based on our hormones, particularly women, girls. But the other part of it is just what happens at that time in your life. There's so much change in your life when you're becoming a teenager. And when I say change, there's just so much more responsibility. And I think the thing that actually, and it's not it's just part of life. It's a little sad, but I mean, if we all did not take on any responsibility at any point in our lives, we'd all be happy fools. But at the same time, we all have to kind of take on some responsibility. And I think the more you take on responsibility, the less time you have for joy and just happiness across the board, because responsibility, let's face it, is not fun, right? Responsibility is demand. It's stuff that you have to do. And I always say, you know, with our kids, when they're kids, we have the great opportunity to balance their lives and try to increase reinforcers as life gets harder. And the more you increase reinforcers, obviously, the more you're balancing joy in the world and keeping the child happy and so on and so forth. But the truth is, over time, really, there's just so much that you can do in terms of manipulating the reinforcers. Life just becomes a little bit harder. There's more demand in school. There's probably more demand at home. I mean, an 11, 12-year-old is more or less expected to get up on their own, get ready by themselves, et cetera, whereas when they were 5 and 6, you were helping them with all of that. Just think about the number of things that require independence or become independent, and all of that is just, it's less reinforcement. And even if it's something as basic as, okay, you know, you wait for the school bus alone now, you didn't when you were 4, you know, something really minimal, it's still less reinforcers in your environment, right? So bottom line is, what I would look at here for her, yes, some of it might be hormonal, but the bottom line is, regardless of what the cause is, you need to increase reinforcers. You need to figure out what is going on that's causing her to be depressed. You said, this mom said she's depressed or angry. Depression and anger are, by the way, the same exact emotion. Depression is internal, anger is external, but it's the same emotion. It's just where you turn it. If you turn it internally, you become depressed. If you turn it externally, it becomes aggression. And what you need to look at is what in her environment is causing that emotion. And usually it's just an imbalance of demand to reinforcer. So there's too much demand, not enough reinforcer. Now you have to observe her environment. That means the ideal way to do this, I think, is you would have someone that she doesn't know who's a friend of yours, observe her for 24 hours, go to school with her and so on, and just take notes on what are the things that are causing her problems. Like, when is it that she falls apart? Well, how many demands are being placed on her during the course of the day? Is she receiving enough reinforcer? Now, keep in mind, demands don't have to be, or the things that are hard for us don't have to just be in the form of a demand. They could also be things like other kids making fun of her, her finding herself in a situation that is too difficult, so she feels lost at school. It might be a sensory thing that's provoking this, like there's too much noise, or she's afraid of having too many kids around her, or whatever it is. But if you observe her, and it can't be you because she'll react differently if you're there, but if there's an observation of her, and you'll be able to see the types of things where she has, like, she's trying to isolate herself, or she's trying to avoid, or she falls apart. What are those things? Is there a lot of homework being given to her? Is she just uncomfortable with who she is? Or it's those types of things. This is not about autism. It's about her inability to cope. And so you have to really look at the environment, look at her level of comprehension, look at what's going on around her that's causing her this stress, and increase the reinforcers and teach her a way to communicate what's going on with her. Most of the time, on the spectrum, not on the spectrum, teenager, adult, it doesn't matter. We fall apart when we have an inability to communicate and an inability to change what's going on around us. So really observe a little bit, see what's going on with her, see if you can pinpoint the stressors. Don't worry, it's not like things are going to get worse with age. True, a lot of demands are placed as we get older and older, but we also learn how to cope. It just has to happen more in a more mild fashion. Like, maybe there's too many demands, reduce the demands and gradually teach her how to cope with them. A lot of the things we do here with our kids is just teaching them, like, breathing exercises, how to walk away from a stressful situation and go and think of and do something more fun, how to give yourself tokens, how to give yourself reinforcers. I mean, I do this my whole life. I tell my kids, I've taught them how to study. And I always tell them, like, when it's finals week, like, study 2 hours and then do 30 minutes of something really fun. Study 2 hours and 30 minutes. And if it's a very hard subject, then study 1 hour and give yourself, you have to do those things in your life in order to be able to get through. And I think that's what's valuable for her to learn right now.
Wonderful. Well, we all need to live by that.
We do.
We want to take a break, but before we go to break, I don't know that everybody knows that, in addition to the work that you've done at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders, at some point you realized that there were people who needed help because financially they couldn't afford to do the things that they wanted to do. And
Absolutely.
You founded ACT Today, which stands for Autism Care and Treatment Today. You're still the president of ACT Today and very involved. And so, and making sure that families get grants. And I think it's important to note that, anyone in the United States can apply for these grants. And
that we've given, I think through ACT Today, we've passed the $1.5 million
yes.
Level of grant giving, and I'm very proud of that.
Yes, and I want to be clear that people don't have to be a CARD family.
At all.
That these grants are given to people that CARD will never see.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So this letter came in this past year from a mom of a little boy, age 4, in Tennessee, and she asked for an iPad because he was starting a bunch of therapies, and dad works as hard as he can, but the need was there, and she is a stay-at-home mom, and there was no way to pay for the iPad. And she said, thank you so much for helping my son to get a tablet. He learns best from electronics, and it was devastating that we couldn't afford one ourselves. By using his iPad for 30 plus days combined with speech therapy, we are finally getting him to start communicating. He is starting to tell me what he wants to eat, when he pees in his diaper, and is engaging in stories. This means everything to us, and we are very grateful and thankful for your help.
That's awesome.
Another life changed, and so we're going to
amazing.
We're going to read these from time to time throughout today. But we're going to take a short break, and then going to be back with more questions. Remember that you guys can be writing in on Facebook right now, on our live feature, on YouTube, whatever flips your switch. We'll be back after these messages.
Hi guys, welcome back to Smarty. We're going to be working on identifying and labeling emotions. In February of last year, I know we did something super similar, but I promise you for this project it's going to be faster and easier because part of the project you'll be printing from our Facebook page at facebook.com/autism-live. Well, here's the rest of the materials you'll be needing. Templates, scissors, crayons, and tape. The first step you're going to do is print the template from facebook.com/autism-live. I have them right here, and I printed them double-sided. So now that I have all the pages printed out, I'm going to hand it off to my kiddo to have them color it in. So while they're coloring the face, you can of course work on identifying colors, labeling features, staying in the lines, and of course working on that pincer grasp. Once your child has finished coloring all the faces, you're going to take the pieces of paper and fold them in half. Once I have all the pages folded in half, I'm going to layer them together like a booklet. Now that I have them like this, I'm going to do is take my tape inside and kind of tape it together so they're bound together. If you have a stapler, you can do that too. Alright, now that this has been taped together, it looks like I have a book. So we're almost done with the project. All we need to do now is cut along the dotted line. Keep in mind, don't go all the way across to the edge or else going to be cut into thirds and it's not going to be a solid book anymore. The other thing in mind is, your kid can work on following a straight line while cutting, and if they can't do that, help them out. Alright, my booklet now has been cut up, and as you can see, I can now take a tab and flip it, and it'll change the look of the face. And what you can do is, ask your child how the emotion of the face changes based on what parts of the features you change. Well, I hope you had fun doing this activity with me, and until next time, craft on, guys.
Can you see me flying by your side?
Welcome back to Autism Live and to Ask Dr. Doreen. We're here with Dr. Doreen Graham-Pichet, and she's answering your questions in real time. You can write in on whatever device, whatever site you're on, you can write your questions in right now. But we had a question that came in during the break when Dr. Graham-Pichet was not with us the last 2 weeks. And they said, my older sister was with CARD until she turned 16. Now she's 27. And I just want to be really honest and say that life has not been easy. Her morning and night routines have gotten so long. She's constantly adding more and more actions to her routines, changing the TV channels for 15 minutes, playing games on her phone, staring at the wall, flushing down rolls of toilet paper while she stays in the bathroom for 1.5 hours. When we try to break any of her routines, she gets aggressive, and to be honest, my mom and I can't handle her physically anymore. She likes snacks, so we told her that she could have a snack if she got out of the bathroom in 1 hour 25 minutes. And when she doesn't get the snack, she gets so aggressive. Please help. Should we consider medication? My mom is so against it, but this is consuming our lives. Her routines are 3 to 4 hours long in the morning and the night.
This just breaks my heart.
Yeah.
And thank you for being a sibling who cares so much and writes in. This is... Yes, she would benefit. The symptoms that you're describing are very much related to obsessive compulsive type stuff. When a ritual, none of this is okay, first of all. None of it has anything to do with autism. She has developed a kind of obsessive compulsive routines, which usually happen when someone feels a little bit anxious about their environment. and could be a variety of things. I mean, OCD in my mind always starts with some sort of chemical imbalance or something, or brain maybe neurotoxin or something that causes us to feel very insecure and a need to put things in a particular order in order to feel more secure. And that's where we start those kind of routines, and they just become over encompassing, and it's so beyond anything that we feel we can control. Like, you know, people with OCD would rather die than not do their compulsions, because it's such a severe desire to do that compulsion. The compulsion is the act of whatever it is that you do repeatedly, these routines, and they give us calmness, because it's sort of control over my environment. It's kind of like you think something is dirty and you wash over and over until momentarily you feel like it's clean, but it doesn't last. And 20 seconds later you feel like it's dirty again and you'll have to wash, and the routine becomes longer than the fear. So it's a pretty bad cycle, and the treatment for OCD type stuff is behavioral as well as medication. There's very, very good medications that deal with these issues. They're serotonin reuptake inhibitors, and they really do work. And nowadays we have such advanced SSRIs or SNRIs, which also function with both two types of neurotransmitters. And it's important that you look into that. I understand that your mom might be anti-medication. This is not the type of medication that she's against. The type of medication that I think most of us don't want for our kids are like antipsychotic medications that basically just turn our kids into kind of, you know, like comatose individuals. This is not that. In fact, you won't even notice a change in her behavior, except for the fact that she will be less obsessive about certain things. She'll care less when it comes to those particular routines. Now, having said that, this has now become a habit, and breaking a habit requires, not only does the medication will kind of take the edge off, and she won't develop new ones, and she might not have necessarily a need to do something for an hour and 25 minutes, but nevertheless, you need to be able to stop these non-functional, maladaptive routines. And the fact that you and your mom fear her aggression is the problem. In other words, she is now behaviorally controlling you guys instead of you guys controlling her behaviorally. And so what you need is, you need help. You need someone who can manage her aggression. And I don't know where you are, or if you are still in the position to get card services. We do have an adult program. When we have adults who are aggressive, the entire team receives training that's called assaultive behavior management, ABM training. And these are just training so that, you know, individuals my size, for instance, can protect themselves against aggression, and can also help control the individual who's being aggressive. As long as she can aggress, and nobody wants to deal with it, she will continue to do these things. It's like someone just saying, leave me alone, and then you leave her alone. So by aggressing, she's communicating, I don't want you guys to touch me or stop my routine, and you guys back off, and then she's allowed. It's a great thing you did with reinforcing her with treats, but it isn't really enough. She needs to, one by one, these routines need to be broken, shortened, and eliminated, and replaced with more appropriate stuff. Think of it this way. If she wasn't spending an hour and 25 minutes doing this in the bathroom, how much other more functional stuff could she be doing and learning? So from my perspective, what you need is, you need someone who can assist you. That means, you know, therapists who are trained in assaultive behavior management, perhaps larger people who can help control her aggression, and be able to actually get the message across to her that her aggression is not okay. Her routines are not okay, but then more importantly, her aggression is not okay as well. So both the aggression has to be eliminated, which means it can't be effective, and also the routines need to be gradually reduced and eliminated altogether. So my recommendation would be to get into an ABA program. and make sure that these are called focused programs, and the focus would be initially on just eliminating the aggression and teaching your sister to converse or to communicate non-vocally or vocally, whichever she's able to. And then it would be focused on reducing the routines and replacing them with something much more functional. Any ABA program that takes adults will be able to help you with this, and she should be able to get insurance coverage for this. And if you don't have private insurance, you should be able to access Medicaid.
And we've had a lot of people on the show recently talking about transitioning from, being a teenager to an adult, and talking realistically. We've had parents of adults who are significantly older on the show, and there's been a running theme about removing the stigma of potentially having to take somebody out of the home. Right. That sometimes if it gets to that point, right, that if you find the right places, we all have in our head about places that it's horrible in our mind, but about taking somebody and putting them, maybe not forever, but for a while, into a group home or something like that, where they have this training to be able to give the family a break.
Absolutely. Thanks for bringing that up, because that's a very good point. And this is, you're suffering and your mom is suffering, and you both also have lives. And it's important to make sure that our individuals, no matter what functioning level they are, challenging behavior is not part of the autism diagnosis. It is a side effect which indicates the individual can't communicate well. So it is very, very possible for your sister to have autism and not have these challenging behaviors like aggression and so on and so forth. So these places, these residential facilities that Shannon is referring to, there are all types of residential facilities, and there are places where the individual's behavior will not be tolerated, and she will learn to not aggress against others. There are temporary placements. There are placements that are actually very positive. And I have to say, over the course of the last 30 years or so, that image of a horrible placement should just be gone, because a lot of the current adult placements are fantastic.
Yeah.
In fact, last weekend I was at the Ernie Els Global Autism conference or initiative, and there was a lot of families there, and we were talking about this. We were talking about housing, and then we were talking about employment. Those were the two concepts for the day, and it was 2 days, and it was fantastic. It was a very, very wonderful experience, and I really wanted to start looking into that and getting into that. And it's very exciting to see that there are so many parents who have now gotten involved with the development of amazing housing communities, not just housing, but communities where the child is, or the adult is very safe, has fantastic programming and training by well-trained ABA individuals. And these types of behaviors are not that hard to manage. Honestly, when you have an individual who's trained and they do not allow aggression, what happens is the individual, your sister, learns very quickly, okay, this wasn't effective. I should probably communicate rather than aggress, because it just didn't work.
Yeah.
So that's another thing to look into, definitely.
And that's emotionally, it can be very tricky and hard on everybody, but we've just done a whole host of shows with guests who have gone through it. I would encourage you to take a look and see some of the different options.
Right.
Pat Grayson DeYoung in particular did an amazing hour with us about what it was like growing with her son growing up and getting to the point where they couldn't do it anymore, and him leaving for a while, coming back, and ultimately him saying, I think I want to go back. I want to live on my own.
Oh, amazing.
And how freeing that can be for a family, and how good it was for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
Something to be considered in any case. And then let us know if you need some more help and support. You're part of the family.
Definitely.
And we've been, as we go to break, we've been reading letters that we get from Act Today folks, and there are two brief ones here that I want to read that have to deal, because one of the things that Act Today gives grants for is under the heading of safety is often fencing. When we have, and I think a lot of people think, oh, well, that's just little kids. It isn't. So I want to read these two. First, Colston, who was 4 years old, his mom wrote in and said, part of our daily battle with Colton is that he's drawn to the road and would elope. I have two other children. When I would turn for a second to address them, bam, he was gone. I was so terrified to even take him outside because it was so bad. I couldn't stand the thought of losing him from something like this. I started looking for options, and it was very hard to put a large sum of money on a fence right away. He desperately needed it as quickly as possible. I came across Act Today. They were very kind and so willing to help. The process was seamless, and I'm ever so grateful. Thank you to everyone at Act Today for everything you've done for assisting and keeping Colton safe. So that's one
Awesome.
4-year-old that we're not
Amazing.
going to hear, a horrible story about. But then we have another letter from a mom of Benjamin in Georgia, age 16. And she also had asked for a fence because her son was diagnosed on the severe end of autism and was an extreme flight risk, very prone to elope, and as a result of that, he required constant supervision. She said, I had to run after him and try and keep him from running into the street and being hit by a car. Once while running after him, I tripped and broke my front tooth. Others have incurred injuries running after him because Benjamin can never play outside without constraints and supervision. And she wrote and said, I've been meaning to send Act Today a thank you card in the mail to say thank you and how much we appreciate your contribution to the fence to help provide a safer environment for Benjamin. Still have not sent it. This isn't even the letter, but she says, and I just couldn't go another day without letting you know how much we appreciate you all. Just
amazing.
some of the stories, and we're doing this in honor of your birthday, because I
Thank
know
you so
you
much. It's
find
amazing.
these
I
things.
love these.
These are your reinforcers. So,
Amazing.
in any case, we're going to go to break, and then we're going to come back with more of your questions for Dr. Granpeesheh after these messages.
Being part of this community is really important to a mom with a son like Jackson, because it really does take a village, and you need so much support, to help bring out all of the amazing qualities and skills and talents that our children have. So I'm just very grateful to everybody who was a part of this.
I think it helps with all sorts of that self-esteem, social skills. They seem to communicate a little bit with each other, and they had a lot of friends. The helpers were phenomenal, and I think the social skills for sure, because they worked together and they did a couple of group things across the floor, and they sang songs together, and yeah, for sure, I think it's a really huge deal. A great program.
What programs like this show is the person is in front of what we call today a disorder. I think what we're finding is that these sorts of brain challenges that make people unique can actually be gifts in ways we haven't discovered in the rest of society to bring them out. So when you see a program like this and you see the kids dancing, having fun, and making up jokes, making up the story. I was here when they did that. That was so amazing to watch, because they were all focused, they were all present, they were all laughing, they were all getting into the creation of this story. And that to me sort of broke the barrier to say, no, first we're dealing with people, and then we're dealing with the challenges.
Welcome back to Autism Live and to Ask Dr. Doreen. Dr. Doreen Grampuchet is here with us, and she's answering questions, your questions, in real time. So I want to go to a question about vacationing because I know a lot of people are starting to think about this. Dear Shannon and Dr. Doreen, any tips for vacationing with a child that has self-regulation issues? Should I bring a visual with me or practice self-calming during our trip? She's 10 years old and has anxiety issues that cause her to get upset and frustrated when things don't go perfectly in her eyes. It basically can be any little thing that triggers her, and sometimes I don't even know until she's yelling at me and stomping her feet. Thank you. I look forward to your show every week.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much. I can't really, yes, you can practice self-calming stuff, of course. I don't know, maybe the best thing you can do is two things. One is you should, depending on the type of vacation you're taking, let's say you're going to a beach, you might want to start preparing her for differences that pertain to that. So like a beach environment would involve sand, so you might want to make sure she's comfortable with sand. So whatever it is that you're going into which is different from her current routine, you would want to make sure she's acclimated to. The second thing is you should just start really practicing the ability to self-calm. So like give her a few things, items that she can have with her that are the things she turns to in order to calm herself. That one of the most effective things in my mind is these noise canceling headphones. I see more and more. I love it. I go to places and I see adults and adolescents, teenagers, kids wearing these, and I can tell they have autism, but I love when I see them wearing it because I know that it is a technique where the individual takes this and puts it on in order to shut out the external noise that's bothering them. I love that. Keep in mind that a lot of kids with on the spectrum or adults also have sensitivity, visual sensitivity. So it's often, I find it also nice for our kids if they have a pair of sunglasses or something that they can put on. You know, honestly, it's funny because I know people who have anxiety, and I see when they travel, they always put sunglasses on, put headphones on, and put a hoodie on, you know, and it's very self-isolating. It's kind of like, don't look at me, I'm not here. And I know that that sort of thing for our kids would also be very helpful. So, you know, yes, practicing those types of things is very good for your child. It's helpful. But one of the things I want to say is you wrote that it basically can be any little thing that triggers her. And sometimes I don't even know until she's yelling at me and stomping her feet. The thing that concerns me about that is that I envision that she's yelling and stomping her feet, and then you start to try to calm her. And by doing it in that order, what you're doing is you're reinforcing the yelling and stomping of feet. So what has to happen is before she yells and stomps her feet, if you've recognized the signs, then you engage and redirect her. If she starts yelling and stomping her feet, you can't any longer remind her, you can't anymore calm her, you cannot be involved in soothing her in any way because it's too late, I'm afraid. And anything you do to soothe or calm her would now be reinforcing the behavior she just exhibited. So in those circumstances, if she's stomping her feet and so on and so forth, I would actually, if it's possible, if you're in a safe place, I would actually walk out. I would walk away. I would leave her to have her tantrum or so on. Often our kids don't tantrum when we're not there, which is also an indication that they're trying to communicate something. So what I would do is I would walk away, and when she calms down, I would give her the opportunity to communicate to me what disturbed her. And, you know, a lot of our kids are not even verbal, and that's okay because all you have to do is show them a picture or an icon or something that is like, you know, her in her relaxation mode, her with her headphones on, her in her favorite place, something for her to indicate, I want a calming, soothing period of break. I need a break from this. Some indication that she needs a break. It's really important that our kids have the ability to ask for breaks. that is probably going to be the thing that saves you on this trip, because if she has anxiety, if she has sensory input issues, if she has whatever is going on that might cause her to have a hard time or get frustrated, if you can figure out what that is before the tantruming or yelling or stomping happens, please then prompt her to do the soothing activity. If you can't, you just kind of need to leave it alone.
There you go. Great advice for all of us, because everybody's thinking about vacations, hopefully, this summer.
Yes.
We're going to take a short break. Before we go, I want to read another letter from a parent.
Awesome.
This is about Reagan, who's 12 years old, and her mom wrote and said, "Your team never gave up on Reagan. I was pleasantly surprised to finally encounter people like you who actually cared. You all showed great compassion for children in need. Your team never gave up on my little girl when so many others in the past have. We will be forever grateful to you, not only for your contribution to her education, because she was given a grant for speech therapy, but for your good hearts. It's something I will never forget, and I sincerely thank you for helping my baby girl and other children with special needs."
That's awesome.
An amazing thing. Make me cry. All right, we're going to take a short break, and then we're going to be back with another question. Stick with us. Welcome back to Ask Dr. Doreen. We're here with Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh, and she is answering your questions in real time. We just got notice that one of our favorite interns ever of the show is watching us, and you know who you are, and we love you. In any case, so question that we had, hey Shannon and Dr. Doreen, both of my children have autism, moderately affected and verbal. Can you give me any tips to help my 5-year-old gain more independence? We use skills and she can fully dress herself if I'm standing there. But if I have her clothes, toothbrush, basically any skill that requires her to be independent and walk away, she will not do it. It usually sends her into a tantrum where she cries and yells that she can't do it and needs me to stand here. She has the routine down, just has to have me stand right there. This carries over into play as well. She can play alone or with her brother very well if I'm in the room. If I leave to do the dishes, etc., it's the same, crying and very distraught that I need to be in the room. She has terrible anxiety, but I don't know if it's related or she just doesn't want to do it. I feel like I created this without meaning to, and thanks for all that you do. We're
That's
sending
awesome.
hugs,
Yes,
right?
honestly, and what a great mom you are. This is fabulous that you've gotten it to this point. So stay in touch with us and let's do this fading schedule together.
Okay.
Why don't we just start with one of these situations, like when she's getting dressed or when she's brushing her teeth. One of them, not all of them, just one of them. And you don't leave the room, but you stand in the doorway. And then that's it. You just take one step out, basically. So you're in the doorway, and then do that for a day or two. And then after that, just stand outside the doorway. So you're going to do this very, very gradually, so that ultimately you're kind of in the hallway and you can still sort of see what's going on, and she's doing her routine. The other thing you should do is increase the reinforcer, like present a reinforcer. I don't know if there is a reinforcer right now. Maybe she's already acquired the skill to the point where the only reinforcer necessary is you cheering. But don't increase the reinforcer that you give when you're outside rather than when you're inside. So in other words, when you're inside the room and she accomplishes something, just say good job. When you're outside and she accomplishes something, really go all out and magnify the reinforcer. The other thing you can do is actually, you can add a step to the chain. So in other words, let's say she puts her clothes on, and you add a step to the last part of the chain. So when she's finished putting her clothes on, she needs to, let's say, go to the hall and take a piece of, like a card that indicates, or what I love for our kids is these chore boards that say putting clothes on, brushing teeth, what are they, whatever else you have that she needs to accomplish. So once she does it, then she goes and like puts an X there or a smiley face or whatever whatever you want, like a sticker, to indicate that she's completed that task. But make sure that the board is in the hallway or is in the kitchen. So she actually puts her clothes on, goes there, and then comes back to her room. That way you're getting her out of the room, and as she starts to get out of the room, and you should be standing close, ultimately you're getting closer and closer to where the board is. And then essentially she will, realize that the reinforcers come where you are and you're out of the room already. So it's just a fading process. It'll be fun to do.
It's amazing because this is what happens. We, as parents, we want to teach something, and you get to a certain point where there's a little bit of a sticking point.
Right.
So it's so great that you write in and that you ask, because these are the little things that make the difference, that often the therapists, they know all, they've been doing with many different children,
Right.
so they're able to do this. But so great that you don't give up.
Oh no, this
Because
is
that's what
you're
so
such
many
a
people
fabulous
do.
mom to
Yes.
do all this. This is incredible. I love this. And so it's just, she really, it's not, you haven't done anything bad. She's doing this stuff to please you. She wants your attention. It's fabulous. One of the things about our kids is, like, often they don't care about our attention. The fact that she wants you to reinforce it is fantastic.
Absolutely.
Just reinforce it more when you're out of the room.
And there's a whole set of lessons, though, in skills, but I can't remember whether they're in the adaptive or if they're in the executive
independent
function,
stuff?
where you have to put the fluency of everything together. So you've learned all the skills. It's
Right.
got to be in the executive functions, because you've learned all the skills for the adaptive stuff, like brushing your teeth and stuff, but then you have to, in the executive
all
functions,
together.
you have to pull it all together, do the planning, and then follow through, and then reinforce yourself.
That's right.
There's an amazing set of lessons there that I found really, really helpful, because we taught Jem all these individual skills, but like there's one on being able to plan your own play date.
Right.
On how do you get from
That's
having
awesome.
the
That's
idea
planning, yes.
to get to, you invite people, and some people said they weren't going to come, and then, what snacks are you doing? And then they get there and
awesome,
everything
yes.
doesn't go well. So what do you have to do to make it work? And then how do you say goodbye to them? It's putting it all together. And there are
Absolutely.
lessons in there for absolutely everything you ever taught in skills. There's a lesson there about how to put it together in a chain of things and see whether it's working for you and you're actually being reinforced for it. That's
Definitely.
kind of brilliant.
And the thing for parents is, you've done such a fabulous job, like teaching someone to, let's say, brush their teeth, or teaching someone to get dressed. It is a series of steps, right? I mean, brushing your teeth involves taking the toothbrush, or actually first taking the toothpaste, opening the cap, putting the cap down, taking the toothbrush, putting it, wetting it, brushing your teeth, washing it, all of those multiple steps. And what you did is the way we teach it often is we call backward chaining. So you basically do the whole thing and leave the last step, and you model the last step, then you model the last two steps, and individually the child gets to the point where they're doing the whole thing on their own. What you did is, all you have to do now is add a few steps to the end of the chain, which involves, when you're done, you go to the kitchen.
Yeah.
And that's where you get your reinforcer. That becomes the last step of the chain, and then it's all good.
Okay. And
You could also make it a game and say, when you're done, you have to come find mommy. you know, and make it a fun game. And then when you find, if you find mommy, you get a big reinforcer.
Amazing. We're pretty much out of time, so I want to take the time to read one more letter.
Yes, please.
And then we unfortunately have to say goodbye to you. I'd like to keep you here all day. But this comes in about Jace, who's a 3-year-old in Texas, and the grant was for help with copays, which is a very big deal that so many people are facing right now. It's like, oh, my insurance will pay for all this therapy, but I have to be able to pay this copay, and it's out of my means. And just heart-wrenching. So this mom said, thank you so much, ACT Today, for awarding my son Jace with a grant that will help us with the daily insurance copay for ABA therapy. I'm a single mother of 2. My son was diagnosed on the spectrum at the age of 27 months, and I was fortunate to get, he's a CARD family. I was fortunate to get him in a CARD facility within 2 months of his diagnosis, where he has since been receiving intensive ABA 40 hours a week, Monday through Friday. You go. That's amazing. At the beginning of 2016, Jace was nonverbal, unresponsive to his name or simple commands, did not interact or seek attention, no eye contact, and so on. He is now a completely different little boy, and I'm so thankful to all. He walks into the room wherever I am, and he will say, "Hi, Mommy," and walks right back out. She says, I drive a total of 128 miles every day just to drop him off and pick him up, and it has been worth every mile. And she says, God is good. My cup overfloweth.
Wow.
We send you hugs.
That's amazing.
Isn't that amazing? And there are more that we didn't get to. Maybe next week we'll read some more. But I will get you copies of all these. We adore you.
Thank you
Happy
so much.
birthday.
Thank you. And before we're out of time, I want to say hey to my daughter who's watching. Nikki, I love you.
Yes, we all love Nikki. What an amazing young woman. We always say, you know, the apple doesn't fall very far from the tree.
She's almost graduated. She's graduating in a couple of months from UC Santa Barbara in psychology.
And she will do amazing things. We're very proud of her.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here, and we'll look forward to having you back next week.
Thank you.
Potty training is different for every child. A child could come in with absolutely, no control over their bladder, and as long as that's not a medical issue, then we can certainly approach it behaviorally and give them the tools they need to be successful, just like any other skill that we would teach.
Well, we think he's learning to pee on the potty. No big successes yet, and lots of accidents. Here is the laundry from today.
For some of our kids takes, just a couple days. And then for other kids, it can take months and months and months. And then when you're looking at complete independence, it can take years.
Hey, you have to go pee-pee?
There's a lot of different ways to tell if a child is ready. We look for a couple different things. Probably the most important is parents saying, I need this to happen, I'm ready. Second is, a child showing interest in the bathroom, and some of it is simply age. It's time to go ahead and work on this.
What are you doing? Pooping. You're pooping?
You first start with teaching the child what they need to do on the toilet. The basic thing we want is for them to drink as much liquid as possible. It's inevitable that if you drink a bunch of liquid, you're gonna pee.
Help!
No, I can't help you pee. I can hold your hand, but I can't help you pee.
Ultimately, what we want is that, the child, as soon as they're put on the toilet, they urinate. So that's step one. Step two is usually working through the amount of time that they're off of the toilet and making sure that they're not having accidents during the time that they're off. So this is kind of the bladder control stage of things.
So the purpose of the potty log is just to see how long it takes them as soon as they sit on the potty for them to actually urinate, and the amount of time that he's able to hold his urine. And with the log, we're able to visually see how long it takes them each time, and if they have accidents or not. He's on a half-hour potty schedule, so if he doesn't go when we take him, then we have to take him in 10 more minutes. So every 10-minute intervals until he does go, and then we reset the clock, and it's 30 minutes again.
Okay, buddy. Okay, last chance to go pee-pees. Do we reset it for 10?
Oh, what does that mean? What does that mean, Jack? It's potty time. We can come play after. Hurry, hurry.
What we hope happens in this time is that the kids will learn how to initiate going to the bathroom on their own. This is oftentimes the hardest part of potty training, is because they get so used to somebody telling them when they need to go that they're not really recognizing the signs just in their own body of when they need to go.
Oh, he wet himself.
Uh-oh. Big wet?
Was it a lot? We can reset to half an hour now.
The biggest thing for parents is not to give up. The other big tip, and I think pitfall that a lot of parents fall into, is putting their children back into pull-ups or diapers, especially if they're starting to have accidents. And this is probably the worst thing that you can do. They need to recognize that feeling of fullness in their bladder and take themselves to the bathroom, or tell an adult that they need to go to the bathroom.
What do you have to do? You have to put your pee-pee in the potty. Okay, give it a shot. See if you can put it in there. There you go. There you go. You're doing it. Yay, Jack. Big prayer for your pee-pee. Big prayer for your pee-pee. Woo! Yay! Good job. What a big boy. High five, high five, high five, high five, high five, high five, high five.
Good morning. Welcome to Let's Talk Autism. I'm Nancy Oswald-Jackson.
And I'm Shannon Penrod. We're thrilled to be here.
Yes.
We're going to interrupt everything for a second because a question had come in towards the end, and I wanted to take just a second to address it. It came in on Facebook. Angie said, I have a question. Is there any way or guidance in how we can request our insurance to speed up the process in getting our child accepted with ABA? He has a diagnosis with autism in our regional center. They want a second diagnosis, and the wait is 10 plus months just for an assessment. Any advice? And, you know, we're going to be talking about this a lot over the summer because we're seeing a lot of pushback from a lot of different insurance companies on a lot of different fronts. And if you think about it, and I hate to cast it in this light, but it's a reality that if it costs you, think about how much money it costs for a child to get ABA. And if they delay it a little bit, or if they give you a lower prescription, let's say you're supposed to get 40 hours, but they get you to take 15, they save a lot of money. And we as parents have to present a really strong line and go, not on my watch, together. So we're going to be covering a lot of stories of parents. We even have a story today of parents fighting back and saying you can't rearrange the pieces on the chessboard to skinny out of what the law says, which is that you have to provide, if I have a diagnosis for this. Let's be real. If your child had a diagnosis for lymphoma, the insurance company would not be asking you for a second opinion.
No.
And what they're wanting to see is, are you going to push back? So there is a process in which you can appeal. And you need to squawk and be persistent, be nice. Nobody ever got anything, you know, by yelling, unfortunately.
But a
you
squeaky
need
wheel
to be
does
firm
decrease.
and call them up and say, this is not acceptable. And, you know, I understand that there are people who have sued over this, not threatening you that you're going to sue, but there are people who have sued over this. I have a diagnosis, and, you know, you're telling me that you want an assessment, but I can't have one for 10 months, you know, and that would be something that would be actionable, because it is. I would also encourage you, whoever you've decided to do ABA with, reach out to them and have them fight for you as well. If you have to, you cannot let your child wait this 10 months. That's the bottom line, right? What some parents, they hit it hard with the insurance, and the insurance will cave a lot of times. Sometimes they won't. And if you had to, you could go and get an assessment out of network, and then you could force them to pay for it, because if they couldn't provide it in a timely manner. Now, you know, talk to your ABA provider to see what they suggest, because I'm not an insurance expert. I'm just telling you what I've seen parents do in the past. But don't wait the 10 months. Get them to pony up and get it done. And we'll be featuring a lot of stories. One mom in particular who spent 18 months and took her insurance to task and taught them what they cannot do to one autism mom, and it helped us all. So we've got a story coming up in the next couple of weeks about that. But don't give in. And write back in if you need more specifics. But really, your ABA provider should help you with this. CARD helps when it's our people. So in any case, good luck. Stay in touch. But we've got news.
Okay, we've got
We
some news.
Some amazing guests that are coming
yes,
up.
and we do. We have 2 sets of guests today.
Yes.
First in the news, we have the Governor John Hickenlooper rejected a bill in Colorado for medical marijuana being approved for people on the autism spectrum, saying he cannot ignore the overwhelming concerns of the medical community.
And, you know, he had moms who had set up tents outside the Capitol for him not to do this. He said, he said he could not ignore, in quotes, overwhelming concerns from the medical community. And he said, if we sign that bill, we end up, without question, in some way encouraging more young people to look at this as an antidote for their problems. I understand that. I don't think he was really looking specifically at autism and the autism symptoms. I don't think any of our kids are going to look at this as an antidote. And the cases of the parents who are requesting this are parents where there are severe self-injurious behaviors, severe violence. I don't...
Seizure disorders.
I think we're going to hear more about this because I don't think this was a particularly well-informed. We do want to say that last year in the state of Colorado, there were 93,314 people who were authorized to use medical marijuana in the state. 314 of whom were under the age of 18. And I think that was the concern that he was having, was that he was saying this is going to be underage kids, and I don't want to be promoting that for underage kids. But, you know, in some cases you have said it's okay because it was severe enough. So I think it's got to be looked at again.
Yeah,
and I'm not a huge fan of medical marijuana for autism. I'm more interested in the CBD oil.
Right, the CBD oil.
Quite frankly. But I think more needs to be looked into on that. I don't think that was very compassionate.
And a horrible story here.
Yeah. Everybody gird yourselves,
Yeah.
because this is the worst of the worst of the worst, and then we're going to try to give stuff that's a little bit more, upbeat. But
yeah.
17-year-old.
With autism, starved to death by his mom, weighed just 84 pounds. She showed real hate.
And she's going to serve 11 years. She's got a 17-year sentence, but they're saying that it will be suspended after 11 years. She was found guilty.
She has some mental issues herself.
Yeah, first-degree manslaughter. This story, there's like no end to there's no bottom on the ick on this story, because his mom had him when he was 15 years old. His dad is a 61-year-old sex offender who had things to say about her, but he impregnated her when she was 15, and there's some question about whether it was consensual. She locked the refrigerator and screwed the cabinets in her kitchen closed so that he did not have food. He began to throw up. He was down to 87 pounds. She did not plead guilty to starving him, but agreed that she did not call medical help in a timely manner.
Right.
What really upset me about this is that this family was under scrutiny by the Child Protective Agency in their state, but the mom refused to allow them to see the boy.
And it says the agency by law could not compel her to cooperate. I don't understand that.
I don't understand that either, but that's a law that needs to be changed, because if somebody had eyes on this young man, there's every reason to think that he would still be alive. And this, what a horrible thing to
Really
do to
horrible.
somebody. Horrible. Anyway, horrible all the way around.
Yes, it is.
And it's maddening to me that the 61-year-old sex offender is the one who's sitting in judgment of this woman.
Right.
Believe me, I have nothing positive to say about what she did to this young man, but we really want to take a quote from the 61-year-old who
Sex offender who impregnated her.
That's statutory rape.
Right.
Whether, whatever. That's who we want to get the quote from. Yeah. Makes you want to be sick, right?
And then on the ABA front, children with autism were being left behind by low Medicaid rates. Particularly, this story comes to us out of South Carolina. what they're paying providers for Medicaid is ridiculous.
It is. I mean, you know, we pass laws, and the laws say that they have to provide, in these states where there's a mandate, you have to have a provision for kids to have ABA. But then this way of moving the chessboard pieces around, what some states, Southern California has a lawsuit right now, and so does South Carolina. The going rate in North Carolina and Georgia is $71 an hour. Now, the therapist doesn't see all of that.
No.
But administratively,
there's
you have to have
costs.
licenses, you have to train people, you have to schedule people. That's the going rate. And in the state of South Carolina, they started at $14 an hour.
They raised the rates to $17 an hour.
And now they're talking about going to 31, and it's a big woohoo, but that's still half,
ridiculously
less than
low.
half of what the going rate is. Parents are suing. And this is what it takes sometimes, is parents who have the wherewithal to say, I've had it. That takes a certain amount of strength, a certain amount of knowing people, and some dollars, I'm sure. But parents in South Carolina and Southern California are now suing, saying this is a violation of this federal law. And they have precedents to show that they are in the right.
Yeah.
So it's just going to cost their kids therapy, because
time. This is valuable time.
Providers can't do it. So if there's nobody to do it, then the waiting list in some cases is 10 years. Well, we all know early intervention.
Right.
Early intervention. In fact, that's one of the things that the lawyers are quoting, is that they have a right to early intervention, and you're circumventing that. So we stand with them.
Then we have a sweet story out of Arkansas. About, in some ways sweet, bittersweet.
Yes.
A boy named Bradley Butler who had autism, who had turned 15. His dad, who's a single dad, thought he had everything ready for the party, his favorite arcade, mailing the invitations weeks in advance. He had RSVPs, but when the day came, only 2 of Bradley's friends showed up. They had about 30 people RSVP, but only 3 people showed.
Horrifying, right?
Yeah.
But Dad was friends with some local first responders that he'd known for more than 14 years, and he called them and said, hey, can you help me out?
The fire department.
And they showed up, and got the picture there, and made it a party.
So it was really fun for the 2 kids that did come, along with Bradley.
And you know that kind of stuff gets back to all the parents that said they were going to come and then didn't come. I wish I was a fly on the wall. See, that's what I think about. I want to be a fly on the wall as the mom reads in the newspaper and in the national news and goes, oh, the fire department and the police, and the kid hears that and goes, why didn't I go?
Right.
That's for me. I'm like, 'cause you didn't, right?
Right.
I'm evil sometimes. But you know what? But that kind of cements it for that kid. Oh, I want to go to his birthday party, and that's what we need. That's what we need. Because then if the kids are like, no, but I want to go to that party, it doesn't matter what the parents think.
Right.
They'll go.
Right.
They'll go. All right. So great guests today. I'm very excited. We're going to start out with a great idea that an educator said, who's very adept at 3D and virtual reality games, took a bunch of his students and created something that we're going to hear about that's really good for our kids.
3D autism app.
Love it. And then a little bit later, we have the author of this fiction book,
Queen for a Day, which I love.
I loved it too, Nancy. So I can't wait to talk with her about her experience in writing this book. But if you need a summer read that will make you feel like you're not the only person on the planet and will help you get... I threw it a couple of times because I got mad.
I know.
I got mad at some of the things that happened to her because it rang a bell with
real,
me, right?
reality.
This is so bone honest, but set in a fictional thing, so you really can dig in. And I laughed.
A lot of different characters in it.
Love. So we're gonna have the author of Queen for a Day. But first up, Mark Petz and his team talking about this new app that's going to help individuals with autism. So stick with us.
Hello, fellow activists. In our last segment, we talked about step number 2, educate yourself. Step number 3 is get support. Now, any journey can feel overwhelming if you feel like you're walking it alone. Well, you're far from alone, because with 1 in 50 kids diagnosed with autism today, there are a lot of us out there. Of course, there's always the issue of financial support. Now, there's a handful of organizations out there that offer financial support to families in need. ACT Today, or Autism Care and Treatment Today, is one of them. Visit our website at www.act-today.org to find out more about our grant process. I want to talk about a different kind of support today, emotional support. Now, you can get that from other travelers on this path. Some of the best advice I've ever received is from the moms of other kids with autism who went to school with Wyatt or were involved with programs with him. Then there are the pioneers. These are the families that have gone through this years ago, and there was very little information out there. All of these people seem to have the desire to pay it forward. Now, one of them, Lisa Ackerman, who is one of my mentors, started an organization called TACA, Talk About Curing Autism. She actually took the concept of mentors and support groups and made it available to everybody. You can go to their website, talkaboutcuringautism.org, to find out more. During the first and most difficult year after Wyatt's diagnosis, I wrote an email to close family and friends, letting them know what was going on and the challenges our family was facing and why we dropped out of sight. I was amazed at the outpouring of love and affection and all the help I received from that email. First, you have to be vulnerable. You can't be afraid to ask. Try this out. Could you cook me a meal? Are you going to the market? Can you pick me up a few things? Could your kids play with my kid and make them feel included? Or can you come over and clean my house? Well, maybe not that last one, except with your best friend. And maybe the best support of all is having someone that listens, and that doesn't cost a dime. So until next time, surround yourself with the loving kindness of others and keep the faith.
This year, our teacher introduced us to the Samsung Solve for Tomorrow contest, which challenges us to use STEAM to help address an issue in our community.
Students with autism often struggle to interact and socialize with others. This impacts their ability to learn in the classroom.
Our challenge is to create an environment in which students with autism can practice social interaction. We're using design thinking to solve this challenge.
An important part of our journey here is understanding the day-to-day lives of students with autism,
so that we can use that awareness to create more effective tools.
My name is Emma. I have autism. Sometimes I have problems with my friends.
My name is Eric and I have autism. It's hard for me to talk to people.
We have learned that autism now affects 1 out of 68 children and that the prevalence in our community continues to grow.
And autism is one of the fastest growing developmental disorders in the U.S.
This inspires us to collaborate with students and other professionals using a design thinking process.
Imagine learning in a space where failure is encouraged,
where wild ideas flourish,
and where understanding your client is critical.
Through collaborative efforts with our peers, we developed different variations of a prototype that helps us accommodate different learning styles.
Our 2D teams are creating social stories that are designed to look like storyboard comics.
We developed 3D models and environments to create animations.
And our tech teams are using 3D models to create virtual reality experiences based on storyboards and 3D animations.
This is by no means an easy task. It requires us to work through multiple iterations of the design thinking process to reflect and refine our solution.
We're also reaching out to students with ASD and their parents, as well as experts, to get feedback on our designs.
Using visuals is something we do a lot as professionals working with students with autism.
This part of the design thinking process enables us to implement feedback into our revisions and ideate even better solutions.
As we're working through this project, we discover what kind of an impact we can make on this community, and that with more help, we can create an even bigger difference.
This project has led us to form a partnership with a local tech company, Yeti CGI, to mentor us through the process and the challenges that we will face throughout it.
As we continue through our journey, we are discovering that there are even greater needs in our community for a solution like our idea proposes.
Here, we can use our passion for 3D animation and game design to help make a difference in our community, but we need your help to keep our vision moving forward.
Can you help us
solve for tomorrow?
Welcome back to Autism Live and Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. Joining us right now from Grand Rapids, Michigan, and the Kent Career Tech Center, we've got Mark Petz, who is an amazing educator who helped, I mean, you just, how impressive was just program. The video, yeah. Right? And Mark has an extensive knowledge in 3D animation and game design, and after 14 years of working in the railroad in IT, decided to go into the classroom and be an educator of excellence. I'll have you correct me in just a second. And joining with him, we've got Mary Musto, who has teaching endorsements in so many different areas, including learning disabilities, autism, emotional impairments, K-6 all subjects, gifted and talented special education, and also McGuire Vanderwall, who is a recent high school graduate from the 3D, I can't even talk anymore, I'm so excited, 3D animation and game design program at the Kent Tech Center. Okay, I don't even know where to start except to say welcome, and we're excited to have you guys with us.
Yeah, thank you for having us on. It's fantastic.
Tell us about the Kent Tech Center. What is that Career Tech Center? What is that all about?
The Kent Career Tech Center is a school where there's different school districts or schools within the county that send their juniors and seniors to this center to learn job skills training, get them prepared for the workforce, or and many of them get some college education and will then go on to college. So there's a lot of like job skill training, the skilled trades that get taught here.
Okay. And so you have created what you're calling your 3D autism app. And what is the goal of that program, that creation?
The goal is really to create an environment where the user, whether it is a person with autism or somebody who wants to understand autism better, to practice in an environment that will help improve those social communication skills.
And how many students did you have working on this, Mark?
I had 40 students working on it this year.
That's pretty amazing. And McGuire, you were working on this program, is that correct?
I was, yep.
And how exciting was it for you guys? I understand that you were a top 10 national finalist and got to go to New York City to pitch your idea to Samsung?
Yeah. We were part of the Samsung Solve for Tomorrow contest, which is a nationwide contest that allows classes to come up with ideas to help solve problems in their communities. And we were able to, through this project, work on something we believed could help a lot of people, and Clear Samsung agreed because we were able to get to the top 10 nationwide ranking there.
Well, that's fantastic. Congratulations on that.
You're really hitting it on all pistons. I mean, Mary, maybe you can talk about what this kind of an experience for students working on this kind of a project, which not only has real world applications for it, but it's exciting for them. It's got to be so much more exciting than just cracking a book, right?
Oh, absolutely. What was amazing was to experience and listen to Mark's students, as they learned about autism, and to use their skills, their technical skills, to create a product that could help, others, with disabilities. And a side effect was that we hope that these students who worked on this project, when they are at employment or when they go to do university work, that they will then be able to assist those with disabilities because they've learned more about it and they feel more comfortable doing that.
So it's not only instructional for the child with autism or the young person with autism, it's also for the peers to learn more about autism.
Absolutely, and both gain. We see individuals with autism as amazing, and the reason why we even went into this endeavor is because we were looking at the statistics, and these amazing people who do have autism, the percentage of them being employed and working in jobs that are very satisfying is extremely low. It's the lowest of all the disabilities. So we thought, you have these amazing people who can think in pictures, who belong in the IT industry, but because of some social communication deficits are just not allowed, or they're blocked somehow in training at a place even like KCTC, or going on to university work.
Mm-hmm. And Mark, you you worked on this with 40 students, but most of them graduated. But this is not the end, correct?
That's right. So just to kind of step back just a little bit, the students that I worked with this year, the 40 of them, they came into the program with no prior 3D knowledge. And so for 6 months of the year, we worked on the skills that they needed in order to work on a project like this and get it to a state where we can start to demo it. And so now when we came to the end, the students are all graduated. But the nice thing is that the Kent Career Tech Center and the Kent Intermediate School District, they fully support what we're trying to do here. This is really feeds into what they believe is leading learning. So we have 5 students that we were able to hire for over the summertime and continue to develop this and get it further along, so that way we can get it into classrooms and into the hands of those that really want to use something like this.
And how far away are you from that? When do you think this app will come to market so that people can use it?
So our goal is by the end of the summer to have a testable demo that's going to be used in just some select schools around here. And then based on that feedback and the data, that will help guide us to revise our product. And then our hope would be, within, I would say this time next year, that we'd have something that we could certainly release to all of the public.
And what is your long-term vision for the project?
The long-term vision is to create some type of just an access, like a service or something that the school district can offer to the stakeholders, a way to practice, whether it's in the classrooms or to local businesses, and then eventually go on a broader scale, like a nationwide or even across the globe. So something that's going to be easy to access, and something that's easy to use and that's effective.
Remarkable. McGuire, what are your plans now that you graduated? What are your plans now?
Well, I'm actually one of the 5 students selected by the district to help continue this project during the summer. So hopefully my main goal right now is to be able to finish up that demo that we're set to finish by the end of the summer, so that we can keep working on this project throughout the school year.
Great.
Remarkable. And you've already brought in some money for this, because you guys won $50,000. Talk about what that enabled you to do.
So the prize for making it so far in the Samsung Solve for Tomorrow contest was $50,000 in Samsung technology. And what that means is that they provided us a list of technology that we could select based on the needs of the school and the needs of what our project requires to get this out to the public. So we selected $50,000 worth of technology, and it's actually on its way to the school here, or it should be here sometime over the summertime.
That's got to feel good. I'm guessing that you're a hero in your hometown, Mark.
Maybe I don't look at it that way. This is something that I really enjoy doing, and I'm having a fun time doing it, and we're just making a difference, and that's really what matters. And so if somebody wants to view me as a hometown hero, that's I'm thankful for that.
I think you need a sash.
Well, we're very excited to see where this app goes, and we're going to be staying in touch. Will you let us know once things progress?
Oh, we absolutely will. We certainly feel that this is something that we want to share to the world, and we're certainly not going to keep it secret.
Okay, great.
And is there anything right now that the community can do to help support you?
So a project like this obviously requires money. So we don't really know how we can structure a way for us to get money yet, but we're working on that. So funding really is our largest obstacle at this point to get this to a product that can be used by the public.
So how do they reach you? How do they reach you if they're interested in helping with funding?
They can go to the techcenter.org, and you could reach out to the administration through that website. I would say reach out to one of the administrators and just express interest in being able to donate to this project.
And I have one more question. So this is an app. So is this an app that you would use one of those set of VR goggles and put your phone inside the goggles, or are you thinking of this more as something to use on, like, for instance, an Oculus Rift?
So we feel like the most accessible way of delivering this would be mobile. Although the Oculus Rift, they're very nice and they have a lot of bells and whistles, but our goal is really to get it mobile. And so it would use like the Oculus Go goggles or the Samsung Gear VR. And of course, technology is changing. We have ideas of how we can, evolve our idea to something that's even more accessible and utilizes mobile technology on a grander scale. So for now, it's the portable VR goggles.
All right. Fascinating.
All right, well, we'll be staying tuned and can't wait to hear about the new developments, and we wish you the best of luck.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for sharing our project and what we're doing. I think it makes a huge difference, just people knowing what we're doing. So.
We think it's amazing. You guys are doing a great job, all three of you. So you guys take care.
You too.
You too.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, fascinating.
Yeah, really. Some of the new developments.
I mean,
I
do think that this is the future of everything. I mean, this is what my son is doing, and the 3D virtual reality. It's so you got to bring Wyatt over to try it. You have to, because you're in a world. And I've talked to Jem about it. The environment is so reinforcing. Perfect example that we went when the Ronald Reagan Museum, which is close to us here, they have installations of different exhibits. And it was like 2 years ago, they did one that was called Interactive. And we went over the holiday break, and they had a VR thing, and you had to pay like $10 to get 10 minutes, which was kind of expensive. But I didn't want to do it. I said it'll make me car sick. But my husband and my son did it, and it was job things. Okay, so Jem was in a office setting, and there were things that he was being told to do, that he had to file certain papers, which is boring, right? And he was having a ball because he was using fake hands, and he was in this like cartoon environment that he was loving it. Then my husband chose being a short order cook, which my husband does not like to cook, and there was a funny element to it because he had to like get the eggs ready, and he didn't pay attention to the microwave, and the microwave heated up, and smoke was coming out, and we have video of him just playing. He's got goggles on, and he's like, oh, I gotta do this, but boring things. I mean, not to everybody. Some people love being a short order cook, but you know what I'm saying. That would be really hard to get our kids on the autism spectrum to be into, and everybody was lining up to play it because the environment is so enriching.
Interesting. Yeah.
And then I tried something last summer, and then I went, oh, I get it now. I get it. This is exciting stuff. So Wyatt has to come over and play.
Okay, that sounds great.
All right. We're going to take a break, and then we are going to come back
with Maxine Rosalier.
I already said I've slaughtered her name, and I don't even want to because I love this book so much.
The book is so great.
It's really great.
Okay, so we're going to come back and talk to her about it. Queen for a Day.
Stick with us.
You say howdy, we say hi. Let's get rowdy, let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild.
Hi, welcome back to Autism Live. I'm Lisa Ackerman, Executive Director of TACA. We're gonna bake again.
All right.
It's my lovely assistant.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Lucero.
We heard so many people go, I want a decent chocolate chip cookie for my kid to eat. We've got all our dry ingredients. So I've got the flour, I've got the flaxseed meal, baking soda, baking powder, our gum, or xanthan gum.
Great.
So we're gonna get started in the mixer here. So those are dry ingredients. I do have brown sugar. we did cut this down. And the one way to do that is my favorite, and that's maple syrup. I'm using egg for this recipe, but we could use more arrowroot and also the flaxseed meal. So I'll go ahead and throw my eggs in here, which I love doing. So, and then the last thing is a shortening and gluten-free casein-free butter replacement. So I'm going to go ahead and throw this in. I've let it sit out for a while so it's nice and soft. So let's go ahead and mix this thing well. These are dairy-free, soy-free, and I really like them. Again, Enjoy Life is a great product. It's also net-free. And chocolate chips are a personal thing. I won't judge you if you use the whole bag.
I would.
I know, right? So here we go. Great recipe. It's the nice consistency. Everything's ready to go, so we can enjoy our cookies here in just about 10 minutes. We want to give it a kind of like a couple inches between each cookie. You know, a lot of people are really concerned about aluminum, so what I've done is I laid down my natural brown parchment paper, and Jen's helping out putting the cookies down. So we're separating the nice baked good that's all organic from the aluminum cookie sheets. So let's go put these in. So magic oven allows me to pull the last ones out. And voila.
Yum, looks good.
Really great cookies. I'll let you have a bite so you can do my Vanna White there too. Yeah, these taste pretty good.
Really good.
We're going to come back later after I gain 5 pounds and eat this entire tray.
For sure.
You know, more feedback is good. So if there's something you want us to convert, like another recipe or maybe a relative made, just let us know, autismlive@gmail.com. You can go to Facebook, or there's thousands of recipes on the TACA website just waiting for you to explore. You can go to tacanow, TACANOW.org, and we'll see you next time at Autism Live.
Bye.
You say howdy, we say hi. Let's get rowdy, let's get wild. Let's get wild.
Welcome back to Smarty. Today I have a special guest with me. What the heck? She's missing!
Here I am!
And what's your name?
Mackenzie.
And what are we doing today?
Making sidewalk paint.
And how do we do that?
I have no idea.
So, the materials we'll be needing
are 2 cups of cornstarch, 1 cup of cold water, 4.5 cups of boiling water. Be careful. A mixing bowl, a spoon, sparkle, and food coloring.
So, the first step we're going to do is we're going to take our 2 cups of cornstarch and put it in the big bowl.
Yes.
Can you do that for me?
Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry.
It's alright, I'll help you. Step 2, you're going to put the cold water into the bowl.
Cold water into the bowl.
Good job. Step 3, we're going to stir it with a big spoon. Good job. You're going to keep stirring it until it's all the way mixed together. So the next step is adding the boiling water. That's a little dangerous for her, so I'll be doing it myself, 1 cup at a time, stirring it together. You going to keep an eye on me?
Yes.
So once we're done stirring the cornstarch water, we're gonna start making our dyed paint. So what are we gonna do?
We're gonna put in the dye.
Okay.
And we're gonna put it in the sparkles.
All right, let's do it. Move this out of the way. All right, it's all you, Mackenzie. So the more food coloring you use, the brighter it's gonna be.
Ooh.
So let's put the sparkles in.
Now we're gonna put the cornstarch in the jar.
All right, do you wanna stir that up?
It looks pretty. We're gonna make a few more colors and we're gonna go paint on the side.
See all the colors in the sky tonight.
Are you excited?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it.
Love is the truest state of mind. Now can you see me? Can you see me? Can you see me flying by your side?
of the most frightening things there is when your child wanders away or elopes. This is when they leave an area without permission. And we know, science has shown that over 50% of children on the autism spectrum will engage in this kind of behavior. But we don't have to just accept it as fact. There are things that we can do to teach our children how to appropriately ask when they want to go someplace. But before we can teach, we have to know why they're doing it. Are they wandering away to go to something, or are they wandering away to escape something? Really important that we know that. And once we do know that, then we can put in place these really effective teaching strategies. I want to remind you, though, that if your child is engaging in this kind of behavior, it's really important to work with an expert. Get professional help. They'll be able to effectively figure out why your child is doing it and put an intervention in place that's effective. And when you stop and think about it, there's nothing more important than keeping our children safe. You might be asking yourself, a BIP, what on earth is that?
Okay, we're back.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
We're very excited.
We are very excited
both
because
of us are
we
fans.
both loved this book.
Loved it.
Queen for a Day by Maxine Rosaler.
And we're so excited because she's here with us, joining us via Skype. And honestly, like, both of us have raved about this book.
Yes, and honestly is a good way of saying it, because
Yes.
the book is honest. Maxine, welcome to the show.
Hi, I'm so happy to speak to you. I wish I wasn't looking at my face, though.
We feel the same way.
You know, brutal honesty is how I describe this book, because it just doesn't sugarcoat anything. Was it a difficult book for you to write, given the fact that this comes from your own experience as an autism mom?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm not going to look. Can I just look away from the camera? Because I really hate looking at myself.
Absolutely. Or if you have a Post-it, cover it.
What? I just cover it like that?
Yeah, there you
I'll put a magazine in front of it.
There we go.
Anyway, was it difficult to write? It's interesting. First of all, I love writing. I've been writing for 35 years. I'm just going to look down at my floor. I've been writing for 35 years, and I was, written many other, I've written 2 other fiction books and other books, and writing for me has always been a joy. It's just something about it that I need. It just feeds my soul. And when I was writing this book, I can say that it was difficult in certain respects and not difficult in others. I mean, it was not difficult because I love writing, and I love being in touch with the truth and with my true feelings. So in that respect, it wasn't difficult. What was difficult for me was actually writing about people I hate, and trying to make them come across as real live characters and not just pure villains. So it was difficult for me to get past my pure hatred for the people who I really consider to be villains, the people at the Board of Education who treated me with such disrespect and really didn't care about Benji at all. The advocate who completely betrayed me and never, didn't do what she was supposed to do. So it was very difficult for me artistically to make those stories come alive in the way that they needed to come alive. So that respect, it was difficult. In terms of getting in touch with my feelings and my sad feelings, my feelings of grief, that's something that I always do as a writer. So, and I really do believe that grieving is the most profound form of love. And so I was really getting in touch with my feelings about Benji. So sure, I was crying a lot, but it wasn't difficult for me because for me, the most important thing is telling the truth.
Amazing.
As a writer and as a person.
But this brings up an interesting point. This is a fiction book about a whole bunch of people. There's a whole bunch of characters, and we get to see it from different people's points of view. The main character, though, is an autism mom, and it's about this journey, this madcap journey that she goes through her life with the things that are happening with her son. But clearly, it comes from a place of bone raw honesty. How much of this, you chose not to write a memoir. You chose to write a fictionalized book. Address that for us and give us an idea of how much of this is actually your story.
Okay, first let me say, yes, it's all my story. In terms of the Mimi character, Mimi really, as Flaubert said, you know, Madame Bovary c'est moi, Mimi c'est moi, okay? You know, not to compare myself to Flaubert, but that's true. But it's interesting because when I had some time, you know how time-consuming all this is, and for a long time I didn't write at all. All I was doing is writing letters to the Board of Education, trying to hire people to work with Benji, and you know the work is just enormous. And when I finally got to some time to write, first I wrote a memoir, a whole memoir, and it was horrible. It was deadly because it was just, you know, me trying to get revenge against the Board of Education and tell the truth about everything and how horrible everything was, and it was just horrible. It was the first chapter actually I managed to keep and you know transform into fiction, but the rest of the book I just wrote myself into a hole, and it was very depressing and horrible. So I threw that out, and then I wrote a children's book in the voice of a child with autism, and that was repulsive. It was awful. I did manage, though, to get one little thing from that book, and that was the boy who lived on the desert island. That was something
that's in the book, right?
Yeah, that was the only thing I took from that book, and it was horrible. And then I don't really remember what happened, but at some point, you know, of course, I had to write about this experience for many reasons. One of which was just selfish, because you know I'm a writer and that's my material, and how can I not use this material? And on the other and from the other and for another reason, I just wanted to tell the true story of what mothers go through and what this is like. And I hate all the sugarcoating and these stories about how wonderful it is and how this kid recovered because of this and this kid recovered because of a diet or for, you know, because of brushing, or, you know, I just felt like it, you know, or it's wonderful. I don't like that. And so I finally started mapping out a collection of short stories, and, you know, which evolved over time. And all those stories, every one of them was initially based on a real experience of mine, with Benji. And then, of course, in the process of writing them, I fictionalized the characters, I fictionalized the backgrounds, I created new scenes and other characters, but certainly, fundamentally, everyone was based on real life.
Right.
Now, I also have enough imagination to create anything from, oh, great, my phone is on, that's cool. Okay.
As you say, there are some villains in the book that you come up against in your fight to get services for your son, and they're portrayed very realistically. But there are also some very sympathetic characters and there's a real bond between the mothers in the book. Can you talk about that bond?
Oh, for sure. I love the mothers. I love the mothers. But again, the only mother that I really knew, the only mother with whom I had a real bond during those very early years and really up until Benji graduated, was the mother on whom I based the story Queen for a Day. She was the only mother who suffered as much as I did. I mean, we both couldn't get past the grief. And so just knowing she was there, just as I wrote in that story, meant a lot to me. The other mothers I loved, but they weren't really partners in suffering. You know, it's funny, at some point I actually formed a group called Miserable Mothers. Really. But really the only two mothers who really were as miserable or as grief-stricken or as completely overwhelmed by this experience was the mother on whom I based Queen for a Day. But since Benji graduated from high school and now he's in college, and I'm doing a program, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's an amazing program. It's very big in California. It's called Self-Direction. And you basically have control over whatever your budget is. I've always hired everyone myself, but I've always done it through the agencies who are awful. But anyway, through this program, I finally met my community of mothers, and it's been very gratifying, because these are women who just, man, oh man, their lives have just been so difficult, and my heart breaks for them, and they're just so the children with physical disabilities. That's very difficult. But they're all experiencing the same kind of fear, especially now that we're all older and our children are getting older. Our big fear is what's going to happen to our children when we die.
Right.
So
tell us about, well, you talked a little bit about Benji today. You said he ended up graduating from high school and he's in college.
Okay, well, Benji is very unusual. There was never a school for Benji, okay? There was never a school. I went to all the schools. None of them wanted him because he's very smart. Intellectually, he's gifted. But socially, he's extremely backward. I would really say that socially, even at the age of 26, he's kind of like a 5-year-old. But intellectually, I mean, he's majoring in chemistry at City College.
Right.
And he's very gifted. So he has such an uneven distribution of what should we say, challenges and gifts, that there was never a school for him. So ever since he graduated from college, I would really say his education has begun, because I've been able to hire people, and I've gotten really good at hiring people because I know now who to hire. I've been using I want to sort of give you tips. Every time I meet another mother, I want to say, well, you have to do this, that, and the other
That's
thing.
great. We love tips.
We love tips.
Because the New York Foundation for the Arts has been an amazing source of people for me, because artists are people who respect differences, and they also have the kind of schedules that we need, because they can fit in their schedules to work with our children.
So is Benji an artist? Is Benji an artist?
Well, he's not an art. I mean, he did that. He's a very good artist, but he has no interest in art. So it's not that he will only do art for when he's in a class. I mean, the reason I gave him a drawing class was one of the things that Benji does, and I'm sure you're familiar with this kind of thing, is he draws maps obsessively. So he will draw maps of New York City by heart and the New York City subway by heart. They're lying all around the house, and every now and then I collect them. So I decided, when he went to, the first college he went to was the Borough of Manhattan Community College. So I decided, well, he seems to be a really good draftsman. I'll give him an art class. And it turned out he was great. I mean, he really is very, very talented in terms of art. But he's not the kind of artist who wants to be a creative artist. He can just do amazing things with art. Although he does, let me show you something that's really cute. I'm getting up for a second.
Okay.
Like, I gave him, I'm looking at this now. Like, he took a ceramics course with this amazing woman. She's such a riot. I love her. Her name is Sylvia Nestor. And actually, her husband, ironically enough, was a character on whom, the character in, oh God, I can't remember the name of it. This is so crazy. The Dustin Hoffman movie. About,
right.
Yeah.
Rain Man.
So her husband actually was one of the people they interviewed to, learn about autism. So Benji, see this?
Oh, that's great.
He did a series of verbal puns. So this is a sheep in this is a wolf in sheep's clothes.
That's lovely.
Isn't that cute?
I love that.
So what is he doing? So what is he doing with his days now? How is Benji?
He's in college.
Okay.
So he's at City College. He's taking chemistry.
And does he have an aide?
Excuse me?
Does he have an aide with him at the?
Oh, are you kidding? Yes. I mean, he has aides from 8 o'clock in the morning until 8 o'clock at night.
Okay.
And we have periodic group meetings. I'm in communication with them all the time. Recently I fired an aide. He was someone, I call them mentors. I don't call them aides.
Right.
And we're always collaborating together about life skills programs. And I just hired this girl. I love them. I'm in love with them. And I have to restrain myself, or I have to prepare them for my outflowing of love and gratitude, because they're so wonderful. But every now and then someone comes along and you think he's good and he's really no good. Like the chemistry tutor, man, he really screwed up. Like, he let Benji go to the store to take a long walk by himself to the store.
Oh,
and so I fired him. This is a guy I got it, he's going to medical school.
Right.
And it sounds like it could be another chapter in
Yes,
this book. And we're almost out of time, although I hate it because I could just talk to you for hours, Maxine. But
okay, excuse me?
This book is so delightful. I laughed out loud, and I can only say that about a handful of books in my life, right? I cried. I got so mad a couple of times at people in the book that I threw the book across the room more than once.
Yeah.
And then went and retrieved it. But really lovely. So when is the book officially out now? Because we got an advance copy.
Yes, in fact, I rewrote a lot of it, so you have to read the new one version.
Interesting.
The editor, because I thought the Annie Sullivan story was it was dragged too much. But anyway,
that was one of my favorites.
Excuse me?
That was one of my favorites.
Yeah, but it's better now because I fixed it up, and that was based completely on a true story. And also, my daughter sang a song. My husband wrote a song. I'll send it to you.
Okay.
You'll love it. Okay, it's so great to talk to you. Thank
you.
It is,
so but so
great talking
people
with
can
you.
get
How
the
do
book
they
on
get the book?
Amazon now?
Excuse me?
They can get it on Amazon now?
Oh, yeah, it's on Amazon. It's in a lot of bookstores too. And yes, it's definitely on Amazon.
This is your required
Queen for a
Autism
day.
Mom summer reading. You will enjoy it. You'll live vicariously through Mimi. You will relive some of the things that you've been through triumphantly and survive with her. Thank you so much for writing this book, Maxine.
Thank you. Thank you for throwing it across the room and retrieving it.
Yeah, twice I did that. My husband was like, "Is that book kicking your butt?" And I said, "Yes, this book is kicking my butt, but I loved it. Couldn't put it down. So absolutely adored it."
So much.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here, and good luck with everything.
Thank you. You too, really.
Okay.
All right, we'll be in touch.
Yes. Thank you.
Too much fun.
I know.
And you know, it's so lovely to meet and talk with her and
Right.
see, because there's so many things in the book that just are so amazing. I have things that are turned down because they spoke to me so much.
Me too.
So anyway, we're out of time. We're past time. Samantha's getting the hook. But we want to thank all of our guests for being with us. There is no show tomorrow, I'm sad to report. I've got friends and family in town, so we'll be back next Wednesday, and there was only a Wednesday show next week. But then we're going to get back off the summer schedule for a while and do 2 shows a week.
Okay.
But until next Wednesday, give your kiddos a hug from me.
And yourselves a hug from me.
Bye-bye for now.